Well, another of our meetings with the candidates for Battle Creek City Commission, and we start today with Commissioner Susan Baldwin, who has been elected to the commission since 2003 and has served 7 terms, is our current vice mayor, retired attorney, and back in the studio with us again today. Hi, Susan.
Hi, Richard. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for being here. What keeps you going on this? What keeps you fired up?
I think that it's the fact that you have so many different things you can deal with when you're working with the city. This is my chance to serve the community. I can get out there. I can meet folks from all across the community, and it's a variety of topics that we have to address. It's challenging, but so interesting.
What is the biggest challenge we're looking at now?
You know, lots of folks talk about economic development, and that is critical. Because if we don't have jobs, we don't have folks that can then provide for their families, raise their children. That's really key. We also have to keep an eye on the fact that the city has to do its job well. We're really doing a good job at that. There's always room for improvements. And we have to remember that things change as we move along. Technologies change, expectations change. So the city has to remember that works on things like police and fire, parks and rec, the airport. There's just so many things that we do in the city.
Mm-hmm. So when we look at where we've been over the last term, is there an accomplishment you point to and say, yeah, that's really what we wanted to do?
I think one of the things that that's very exciting that the city has done lately is establishing the Economic Development Fund, which is some funding that's going to help small businesses in our community. We've got some really good experts out at Battle Creek Unlimited that handle the industrial park, the big industries in town. But it's a real challenge to reach out and be able to connect with the small businesses and help them. Now we've got some folks on board that are doing this. Of course, Ted Deering, the assistant city manager, John Hart, who's working with the downtown folks. This is a way that we can hopefully jumpstart some entrepreneurs here in town, maybe get some of those storefronts filled downtown. It's exciting.
What's been the biggest stumbling block to that for a small business entrepreneur who wants to open in Battle Creek?
I think it's a couple of different things. Of course, the city has to make sure that we are responsive, that we're easy to deal with, that we can get licensing, permitting, all of that done quickly for those folks. But it's also a matter of providing some education, because sometimes these folks have a fabulous idea, but the business side of things, sort of the back end of it, that can be a little challenging. So let's work with the groups that we have in town, whether it's the Chamber, whether it's KCC, and we'll provide the support that those folks need.
Mm-hmm. All right, so if someone is interested then in opening a business, this fund would connect them with the possibilities then. Is that fair to say?
Yes, it would. Let's start with John Hart and our folks downtown. CCDC is helping with all of this. That way we can talk to them about what their ideas are and how you actually operate the business to get those ideas in place.
So as a person who has been serving on the commission for a while, you can look back and say, here's the way we've come, and as well, things like BC Vision have developed. Is that something that you see has been doing good for us?
I think anytime you're getting folks together to talk about the challenges that we have in our community, that's key. That's one of the things that BC Vision is doing. They focused on education. They focused on economic development. They're getting people to talk around these topics. Let's see where it goes. One of theirs is transportation. That is a challenge because we just don't have the number of folks, really the density of folks to provide what you might expect in a really big city, say New York or Chicago. Mm-hmm. But what can we do on a local basis? Because folks do need to get to work. They do need to get to the doctor. They do need to get to shopping.
Right, and that has been a difficult thing for some. If anything that's come out of that, it seems to have been that. So some folks have brought up code compliance as a stumbling block, an issue with which we must deal. How do you see that?
Code compliance is a challenge. We want to make sure that folks are living in safe housing. That's really the basis of code compliance. It isn't to say, hey, are we all looking good? It's, are we living in a safe home? So we want to make sure that folks are dealing with making sure their houses are safe, that you're getting the right permits, that your windows are sealed up, that your building isn't. The reason why do we ask to have it painted? Because that way the building itself can maintain. It is better maintained. Mm-hmm. It isn't going to fall down around you. But we also have to make sure that people understand and to work with folks who may have challenges, whether it's fiscally, whether it's physically, that they can't do the work. That's why the city has programs like the paint program that we did this last year, where we had 90 vouchers where people could come in and get gallons of paint They just wanted to paint their house. It was there for them.
When we met with at-large candidates, we've asked the question, does an at-large candidate look at the whole thing differently than a candidate of a specific ward?
I've never been a ward candidate. I chose to be an at-large candidate because I like the idea of reaching out across our community. We have some fabulous neighborhoods in this community. We have older neighborhoods. We have newer ones. We have those that are denser, houses closer together, walking distance. We have others where people have some elbow room and they want to have some bigger yards. I like the idea of reaching out and talking to all those folks and representing all those areas of the community.
All right. Susan Baldwin is our current vice mayor and a candidate, at-large candidate for Battle Creek City Commission, whom you'll see on the ballot in less than a week now. Susan,
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Best of luck.